Strength of America podcast.
Welcome to the Strength of America podcast, episode 15. I'm Bob Davis.
Bobby Davis.
Bobby, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about a little bit of movement. And when we talk about movement today, we're going to be more classifying the athletic stance, okay? And when we go over the athletic stance, we got to understand that it's kind of a hybrid of a squat and a hinge. So we're going to utilize both of those. But we're going to talk about why it's important to use squat movements, why it's important to use hinge movements, and then how to kind of mix and morph those two in a little bit more specific athletic stance work.
That's perfect. And that's where one of the questions came was we talk about, athletic stance. Well, what is an athletic stance and what's going on? And we see athletes, part of the things we teach our athletes is we want you always in an athletic stance ready to react and move. Too many times you'll see on the field where they're kind of up there tall and then all of a sudden something happens and they have to get down and move. They're always slower to react. So by keeping those hips back in that athletic stance, then we can react and move with power as well instead of just always getting ready and being behind the ball all the time.
So I think right at the start, let's have you kind of go into athletic stance, that I'll kind of show them how I set up some athletes into it, or where we run into problems posturally or whatnot. So all he's going to start with is kind of feet about shoulder width, kind of play with that as you go where you feel comfortable. A good term I heard from a guy named Joel from EXO said, jump wherever your feet land is where you feel comfortable. Okay, so once you hit there, okay, you kind of found where your footing should be. Now all he's going to do from there, he's going to stick his butt back behind him. Good, and then he's going to squat just a little bit from there. Okay, so that athletic stance, I tell my kids, they want to feel comfortable. They want to feel light. So if they get into too much of a squat, they squat way too low. Tell them try to lift their feet up one at a time, and it gets pretty tough to do that. So you want to get to a point to where you can lightly lift your feet up and you can feel smooth, okay? From there with the feet, I like to tell them, it's another good cue I heard from another coach was try to think about trying to slide, okay, a thin piece of paper right under your heels there, okay? We don't want to be way on our toes or we're tipping forward, but we just want a little bit of a shift forward. That way we're on the balls of our feet, okay? I'm going to talk for a while so Bob can hold this and get his workout in for today. Okay, but outside that, hips should be just back behind you. Chest should just be a little bit forward. There you go, right from here. And you want to see that posture stacked and organized right here. You might see a lot of kids going to kind of a very hunched over, that right there. Okay, we have a couple cues we go over, and I either like to think of looking like a gorilla, okay, sticking that big chest out, or another one I like is kind of thinking like Superman, okay? Clark's got that shirt on, he's ripping that shirt out, pulling a Superman symbol out, okay? So whatever you need to do, get creative with your cues and where you're at, but try to think about getting that chest big, okay? We're trying to get those shoulders really pulled down and back, okay? And when we think about it, we're just thinking about really good posture, okay? We start to lose that nowadays. You don't have the grandma or whatever smacking you for not being good posture like the old days you hear from your parents at school and stuff. But more than that, just thinking about getting your hips back and set, okay? Getting your knees stacked right above your laces, okay? It should slide that piece of paper right under those heels, okay? From there, you should feel light and ready, okay? You can really react laterally, forward, back, okay, diagonal, wherever you need to, and you can set yourself up. So,
perfect. Yeah, and that's that ready position. When you feel that, and again, a good cue about sliding that paper, because it helps them feel where they need to be. Too many times we're real flat or way up on the toes, and then we're in trouble too, balancing. Just shifting off just a little bit with the heels so they're off. Now I can react. You can feel it. As soon as you bring those heels up a little to slide that paper under, you can feel how, man, I can move much easier than if I'm sitting back here flat. So that's good cue. Perfect.
Yeah, and athletes will realize when they get in that position and they feel right, they can feel a little quicker. And like Bob's talked about a lot before, maybe we'll get a lot of kids at camp, and we can't make anybody or everybody like Usain Bolt, okay? We can't make everybody really fast, okay? People can get faster, okay? But in a short amount of time, the best thing we're going to be able to do is to make them quicker. Okay, so they got to learn how to just set their body up for success before they move. If they do that, more than likely they're going to be moving a little bit quicker, okay, especially as the game goes on, especially against kids that are fast. If they pay attention to little details, they'll start catching them as the game goes on that quickness, as long as they're paying attention and setting ready in that good athletic stance. outside of that, something I like to do to start working on that athletic stance, we like to do mini band walks. So we'll grab like a little mini band, put it around the ankles, below the knees, above the knees. We're just going to get that athletic stance. We're just going to do little side steps. Okay, it teaches them where to keep their feet a little bit. They can start organizing their body, and they can hold that position for a long while, going back on top of getting some good work for the hips and all that stuff. But that's a good one to start to venture in and teach them a little bit about posture and some of that going on. Also, another cue, if you have a kid that's running into a real hunched over position, something you can try to start to do, or if they're real tipped over, is tell them to get their hands up. Okay, just like you do if you're doing a squat or anything. Once you put something in the front of their hands, it kind of helps them bring that chest up. So that may help and apply there too. Okay, so with that going forward, a couple exercises we like to do, and we're going to start to talk about hinging movements or squatting movements. Okay, once we get in that athletic stance, okay, now how can we work on some strength? Okay, so we have a foundation for some speed and some power and stuff going forward. And really, when you start to go through whether it's a deadlift, squat, RDL, whatever it is going through, you have to know how to load your hips, because that's what you're doing in athletic stance, right? Okay, you're loading those hips and those muscles. Okay, once you have an understanding of how to do that, now you can start to create some power and move there. So the first one right off the bat is real simple. Okay, if you have someone very new, you could toss them right to a dumbbell and you could start setting them up. Okay, this will be a little bit of a deadlift. Okay, a deadlift is going to be your hybrid of a squat and a hinge. Okay, so if you don't know what a squat and a hinge is, let me show you real quick. Dumbbell up top, this would be a squat. Okay, hips back, driving up. A hinge, like we talked about before, is right here. I am tipping. Okay, loading those hamstrings right here. Okay, so the deadlift is going to be a squat at the bottom and a hinge up top. Okay, so I'm going to set up down, athletic stance. Okay, I can simply just say, if we've already done some movement and worked on that, I can say, okay, get in your athletic stance. All right, we're there. Okay, now just squat the rest of the way. Okay. Okay, and that's also a good one we use to venture into trap bar deadlifts and some stuff like that. But that's one we really like.
Well, that's where, just what you see where his spine was on both of those. You know, obviously with the hinge, he's leaning a little bit more as he goes forward, but only because the hips are hinging. They're moving backwards as he goes through that. His squat, he's a little more upright, but the spine is still in the same position. We're not hunched at any point. And too many times the athletes will grab that, and they're doing fine in their squats, everything's good, but as soon as you hand them a weight, what do? They start to drop into it. So you've got to find, that's where going into that goblet, or what he did at the beginning, hold that up. Get your hands up. That automatically gets them thinking about getting the spine, like you said earlier, where they have trouble here. But as soon as you do this, you can see what it does to my spine. It brings me right where I need to be. So it's another tool to help you find that one, because, you know, we talk to athletes and all we've run through. No one cue is going to help everybody figure it all out. Some need something different, this, and just simply hands up can completely fix somebody. You may have been working a while on squats, and before they're doing, you know, chest up, well, and they go up too much, they fall backwards. So just the hands won't shift too much. It does just enough to get them in the right spot.
Yeah. Good. So now when we go from there, we can start to learn, especially when you start to do these mini band walks, these squats, RDLs, or deadlifts, you know, work in a combination of those. You can really start to see some of that posture and position start to mold. So that way they really understand, and that athletic stance kind of starts to become second nature to them. And that's what you want. After a lot of time of moving poorly, things are going to be real dysfunctional looking, posture's bad. So the better we can work on setting that foundation, okay, now we can go to more vertical jump, broad jump. And not saying that we can't do it from the beginning. You'll just see a real big difference. They're like, wow, they know how to use their body, and they know how to really, now they have the strength and they can really attack that ground hard. But now you can start to go on some crazy jumps and start to get real complex. But that really starts to set the stage for some of that so you can really express it.
Now, if you're having somebody that's having trouble with a hinge or trying to find that spot, because too many times they're bending over instead of hinging the hip, what are a couple things you show them to try and find the hinge?
So let me tell you, we had our conference at the Arizona Physical Education deal out in Phoenix, and it's funny when you go and we talked about the squat, the hinge, and all that. But it's funny once I asked them the question of how many of you have taught a hinge before to a kid and just walked away like, what in the world? And you know, it just about everybody raised their hand, and that happens with everybody. And I've luckily kind of been around and seen some people that had some really unique cues, like some of the people at Exos, a guy named Joel and Nick Winkman, and some of these guys. And it's crazy what some of these simple and goofy cues can do to get kids in position. Because trust me, if you try to tell a kid how to do an RDL with the bar, oh my goodness, okay, you're going to see some hunched over here. You're going to see them bend at the back here, and they're not even going to move their hips. We had this the other day, and it just hurts me looking at that and just trying to move through that. But it happens all the time. So how we work on that, there's a few different things we can do. We can go to where we have a wall or something right here. We can have them start to try to touch their butt to that wall or rack or whatever you have. I like to get them thinking about setting their hands on their legs, okay, and stacking their posture. Now when they're moving, they're trying to touch their butt to that rack. Okay, they'll know if they don't hit it, or maybe I start them real close, they hit it real quick. Okay, now we step out a little bit. Now we're really trying to reach. But if I keep my hands on my legs, it starts to help when I do get a barbell. It'll still be a little learning how to get those muscles to help. But that's one way to go.
And as he does that, so again, watch what happens to the spine. So again, start him a little closer to start with, and just do the same thing, but get him reach the butt to the wall. So as he does this, his spine is straight. This is great. This is where we need to be. And he comes back up, and as it gets easier, that's finding it. He can have him step forward a little bit. Now try the same thing, but shifting that, because as soon as he does it right, it's not the back. It's all in the hamstrings and glutes that are doing the work, and that's what we want. But now you'll see that same athlete that has that down and they've got that hinge position, and then you put a bar in their hand, what happens? You've just done 20 reps, everything's perfect. You put the bar in, the first thing they do is this, or they're reaching for their toes when they're not. Their goal isn't this, their reach is butt to the wall, not bar to the toes. Because if they do that, that's what they're doing, whatever it takes to get down there. And if they're not flexible especially, they're really going to round to try and get there.
Yeah.
So that target, understanding what you're trying to teach them, and that part going to the wall works great. But when the bar is there, we still have the same target. Remind them it's not bar to the toes, it's butt to the wall. So we still do that same position. We get that hinge, it's moving back, body's where it needs to be, and we roll into that position. So when they add it, and you'll see it as soon as they get there, they're going to try and reach down, and then they lose that posture. And then they completely take it off that hamstring, and they're just loading that low back.
Yeah. And that's where you really see it. You'll either see them as really losing that posture up top, being very rounded, or you'll see it from just moving at the lower back rather than the hips. And sometimes it can come from, maybe they can't use their hips right because maybe their legs are so straight. They start to do this and they start to round to get the rest of the way. So sometimes I'll tell them just to loosely bend their knees and stay relaxed. And then we're going to go and move from there. Really, you want their knees to bend minimally over the time that they go, but just tell them to kind of unlock their knees, relax a little bit, and then try to bend from there. A couple other things you can do. You can grab a PVC pipe. This is something a little different. Okay, you can try to keep this pinned to 3 points of contact right here. So my point at the top is my head. Okay, then I got my upper back, and then I got my butt. Okay, I want this to stay in contact with my body when I move. Okay, I saw a neat deal the other day from a guy named Strength Coach Therapy on Instagram, and he just set it right in the front side, okay, right here, and now it's head, okay, it's kind of rib cage, okay, then it's down at the crotch, okay, so now just right here as you're moving, okay. You may have some kids that learn, or maybe they're going on the back side, it's not really working, just throw it on the front side and see how that works. If that doesn't work, throw them against a rack, okay. And then I got one other one that I heard, another cue was that try to think of when you're holding a bunch of groceries, okay, and how do you shut that car door? So what do people generally do? You're loaded up with groceries right here, okay, you're going to push your butt against the door to knock it back. Okay, that's another good cue I heard from a guy at Exo. So now you got a little arsenal to work with, and sometimes if you go all through that and that's not really working, set the kid up with something light, okay, and then just let them move around for a little bit. As long as it's not heavy and they're not going to be put in jeopardy there, okay, let them move around. Nobody's going to be great right away, especially at a hinge. But make sure and give them one thing to work on. Okay, I know we threw a lot at you guys, a lot of different cues and stuff, but that's kind of an arsenal you have. Okay, feed them a couple cues, or say, hey, why don't you go to this wall? Okay, just bend your knees a little bit and try to touch your butt to it. Just work there. Okay, once they start to get that, then you can worry about the chest or different things from there. Okay, but if you give them too much at once, just think about when I see my kids, sometimes I'll see a group of my kids trying to help one kid, and that one kid is doing the bar, and there's 4 kids yelling at him, and he's just like, and then it looks real bad. So think about that when you're trying to talk to a kid. You don't want to bombard them, but give them something simple, and then when they got that, okay, feed them another thing. Okay, we don't need to give them everything at once because they're not going to be great at it in a day. It's going to take time. So as long as they have some building blocks and they look good as they're going.
Yeah, and why is this so important? The big thing is for us, with that hinge and the squat and getting the body position, it's helping them understand your athletic position, like we talked about at the beginning, isn't out here. This isn't a good spot, to fall into. But we're not into a full squat either. We're more hip back. It's kind of a happy medium between both of them. With that hinge, there's a slight knee bend, but it's hips back. But that's not our ready stance here. We're more of a squat, everything's sent here off. Now we're at, just like we want them to do, we're jumping, we're doing depth jumps, we're jumping off of something, landing. We tell them to land softly. It doesn't mean soft when we come down here, but it's soft hips back. Because then from this position, it's an easier load on the knees, much better to take it from here, and we can react again much faster. Because if we're here to react, we've got to do this first. Or get in a position or something else. So we stay down and find that. So it's all going to fall together as we keep doing these and get this out there. We're going to put a few more of these videos too on different exercises and what and how. But yeah, I appreciate the question about this, bringing this on and kind of getting us into it. So keep those coming so we know. So make sure you're part of the Instagram so you can see the daily videos on this. We're going to go a little bit more expand on this with the squat and the hinge position. Make sure you're on the YouTube page. Because again, you're going to get all those videos, the full video, the Instagram, we can only do short bits of it, but we'll do what we can on there. And if you still need to, we've got the link below for those of you that want to get that free vertical jump program, at the strengthofamerica.us, we'll have that link down there for that as well. And let me know how we can help. Let's keep it coming.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to throw in on
I think just work on good movement, learn how to load your hips. If you know how to load your hips, you can be a pretty good athlete. You're going to learn how to utilize your body and create some power. So anybody can benefit from that right off the bat. So
and right now we're in baseball, softball season starting. Same thing. How many of you parents you see or coaches are working with these athletes or athletes? They only have so much power going out, but how many of them throw a ball? How many of them hit and don't even use their hips? So we can load and teach them how to do that, create power from there. It's not just for running and agility, but it's how you hit a ball. How you want to get that extra distance, that extra power. You've got to use the hips and load them. So, yeah, no, it's great. Appreciate it. Thanks for being a part of the Strength of America family. Like it, share it, help spread the word, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, it'll be a little later, but happy Valentine's Day. This will be airing on Saturday. This is Wednesday, but happy Valentine's Day.
Yes, happy Valentine's. Hug mom.
See
Bye-bye.
you.